This is Elinor. This is her raw fleece out on the skirting table. This is just in our front yard. This is a lock of her raw fleece. You can see the crimp. This is her fleece washed on the carding table. And then these are flick blocks that I keep in a basket for either spinning or drum carding.
Alright, so I just completed flicking Elinor's entire fleece and sorted the locks, got them in order from the very light locks at the end there. Got a lot of mediums, you can see. And then this is that doesn't go there. Well, I guess that's alright. And then the very dark bats. And so what's going to happen next is I will probably pull out some of the stuff from the medium and just make medium bats, and then build a set of gradient bats from Elinor's wool. And I'm just guessing that I'm probably going to get 10 ounces of bat material from this. So we'll see what I get. Close up here. See, so soft and nice lengths. You know, these are pretty much right what I like after I flick them. Nice length for carding into bats. I'm going to show you how I go about spinning my soft Shetland wool locks that I've flick carded into these 1 ounce bats. So this is typically the form I will sell my wool into spinners. And I've gotten accolades for the quality of the bats, so I thought that I would share what I do. I never thought it was all that special, but the thing with me is I've always worked with my soft Shetland wool. I really don't have any point of reference for other materials, so I've never really thought about it in terms of being unique or different. But feedback I've gotten is from people that have purchased raw fleeces that they had a little trepidation out front, so wanted to just sort of share what I do. So I'm using my Ashford drum carder. I got this about 10 years ago. It's all I've used to create bats, and unfortunately I don't really know what the TPI is. I do know that it was purchased for me by my husband as a Christmas gift, and the thing that attracted him to it was that it's supposed to be for fine wool, and obviously, you know, we're in the low 20s with our average micron count, which would qualify it as fine. So what I've shown before in other videos is that when I flick card it, I end up holding on to the skin, the side closest to the skin, or also called the butt end. So when I have my locks ready to card, they're always in this triangle shape, and the dry side, the side that's closest to a sun and the environment, is always the base of the triangle, where the butt end, the skin side, is the tip of the triangle. When I'm going to drum card my flicked locks into bats, first thing I do, I have a digital scale, and I'll weigh it out to, usually I do a little over 1 ounce because some of the stuff does get caught up on the carder. And 3 key things I always do: I always feed it through the surface sun side first. The reason I do that is I feel like it gets a good dispersion of the fibers across the liquor in, and so it'll be more likely to spread out and fan out onto the main drum. Number 2 is I always go very slowly. I have a manual crank. This isn't electrical. So good with fine fibers because it does allow you to go very slowly. Don't hold on to the fiber. Once it's on the liquor in, just let it go. And I'm push this out just a tiny bit. Sorry about that. So nice and easy. You can see it catching on there. And I feed them, believe it or not, I know this is tedious, but I feed them in one at a time. Very nice and easy. They're fine fibers, they're not going to break, but there is a tendency for them to build up and create little pills on the drum. Nice and easy. Once I get a sense, you can hear the combs on the liquor end catching on the fibers that are on the main drum. I'll take one of my paddle cards, and there, you know, I know some manufacturers offer a brush, but this works perfectly fine, just to compact the fibers down so that when they're coming back around, they're not getting caught on the liquor end. I also try to make sure I distribute them equally, you know, so that I get a good even distribution across the drum. This wool is from our Elinor, so I featured her in my last video talking about the fact that she was a rude fleece, which is really lovely, and she's gray, a gray catmugget, which means I'm going to have a nice range of colors in gray. This is the medium gray from her fleece. So it is again, like I said, I've never really done any other fibers, so I don't really know. I guess maybe the tendency is to crank a little bit faster, but I mean, it's all about TLC with the fine wool. One thing I had noticed that I didn't even realize I was doing was that it's like, let me see, you can see it's like ridged because of the compression onto the drum. Now, yeah, I don't know, are people aghast because I'm, putting pressure on my tines on my drum carder? I had not seen any negative effects or impact on the product as a result of me doing that. So now I'm going to go into fast speed on the video until the end, and I'll show you how I remove it. And I'm going to also, everyone does this disclaimer as I'm watching podcasts. I guess we wool people aren't the most confident teachers, but this is how I do it. I've never really been trained, and I'm kind of starting now to pay more attention to podcasts where people are working with wool and learning a lot of stuff. So, it's not that I'm arrogant and think that my way is the only way. It's just that this is sort of what I've adapted over time, and I'm really interested actually to, I know that there are a few other people that have offered insight into how to prep and drum card fine wools. I'm excited to watch those and learn. I guess I'm not going to go too fast, but this is my 1 ounce of locks. Just pull them right up off of the scale. At this point, I only do solid colored bats. I've seen some really cool gradient bat work done that I just, at this point, have not prioritized, although I do find it really interesting. They're really beautiful. Probably very fun to spin, I'd imagine. When I do gradient yarns, I do it from the lock so that I have like practically perfect capturing of the scale of colors from very light to very dark, because I do gradients just from one fleece because I love not only the breed specific yarns but the use specific yarns, coming right off of, let's just say, Elinor here in this case. So one of the things I've noticed when I've rolled up my bats is I can still sort of see the shape of the locks as they went onto the drum, and on occasion, if it's very pronounced and it troubles me, I'll run them through the drum carder a second time by just taking the bat and pulling it apart into maybe 6 or 7 sections and then running those sections through. So here I have my doffer, and I push my handle with my belly a little bit, get it caught up in my pelvic bone there to prevent it from moving. And I put a little pressure with my thumb on this end. Over here I feel like I'm getting it pretty well, but here I just kind of push it with my thumb. And then I take my, these are all things I don't even realize I do until I'm sitting here trying to describe it. But I take the doffer and I sort of put a little pressure against the tines here. I don't know, just to keep it from moving. Alright, so here's probably where I'm really committing sacrilege, is where I have this knitting needle that I've been using for years to remove the wool from the drum. And I just, every few times, again, like I said, I've had this carder for at least 10 years. I know longer than that, but just to be conservative. And I've done this easily 500 times, probably more. So, you know, if there's a concern about wrecking your drum by doing this, it's, if I'm any example for how doing this is not going to damage your drum, I can't think of a better one. Alright, so I really do try to get as much off as I can because I've measured it as, you know, usually 1.05 ounces. Alright, so there's my bat. And then, you know, I just sort of, I roll it up into the little batlet. I've heard someone refer to it as that, which I thought was kind of neat. And then because it's so fine and crimpy, it almost acts as Velcro and just sort of closes up on itself. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so here is the bat off of the drum, and this is what I use to roll up my bats. It's a fleece off of, it's actually a hide, sadly, which means that the animal has actually perished. And it came off of a ram that we had that we absolutely loved. His name was Pompey. And he actually, well, it's a sad story, but when we reintroduced him into the ram pen after breeding, the other rams decided that it was, they wanted to, you know, attack him or whatever, and he ended up getting fatally injured. And so we took him to a guy that made this into a hide for us, and I always think of him whenever I do this. But at any rate, so it makes a nice surface for me to wind up my wool, like wool on wool. I take the end that I broke with the doffer, and I start with that end. The end where I've pulled it off the carder, there's all these really nice loose pieces, so they kind of help to have the bat seal against itself. Sorry. So these are the loose pieces after I pulled it off the bat, and here's more of the blunt end from where I've done the doffing tool. And so, you know, this is pretty squishy, and I like to tuck the sides in as I roll. I feel like I'm making a loaf of bread actually when I'm doing this. Just sort of tucking it in so that it's attractive and not too tightly, because some people will like to draft from the end, so I want to make sure that it's going to give them an easy drafting experience. And so there is the bat from Elinor, ready to spin. I don't spin from bats, like I said, I spin from the lock. And so what I've heard people say they do, many, if they're trying to spin woolen, will pull from the center here, and because the fibers aren't necessarily aligned, they can get a nice woolen effect. Others I know open up the bat and pull strips, and because I've lined up the fibers kind of carefully, it's easier for them to get a worsted spin, or maybe semi-worsted, I guess. Another alternative is just to pull off big pieces, right, more like spinning from the lock, and just, you know, spin. I imagine maybe if you're doing short draw with a drop spindle, this might be nice, so you don't have a long strand getting caught up in your spun single. So hopefully that gives you some insight into my approach for turning fine Shetland blocks into bats. So this just came in the mail. It's from Premier Supplies in Iowa, and this is one of our main suppliers for sheep-related kit, whatever whether it's our fencing we bought there, our electronet fencing, meds we're buying from there, all of our lambing supplies. So they're specific for sheep and goats, I believe. So we are very brand loyal to Premier. And I'm pretty sure I know what this is, but let's have some fun opening it up. So, it is halters. I ordered 15 halters, braided ropes, and then they also put a nice little thank you card in here. And let's see. I'll just put this up there because there's some nice contacts, phone number, their hashtag. We've been using them pretty much since we started having sheep. So yeah, so there's 15. Now they call these lamb-sized halters, and all they had in inventory was red, probably because this is halter training season for lambs. Getting ready for the 4-H fairs and stuff for the students. All right, so one of the struggles that we have with our Shetlands is that they are really tiny relative to the other sheep in the world, in the species. So buying halters is always kind of tricky because they're usually really large. So these are big. They said they were for lambs, and they also have this hardware here that has me a little bit anxious. You never know what you're going to get. I've never seen this hardware on the smaller sized ones that I've purchased before. So we'll see how that goes. Nicely burnt on the end there, so it's not going to fray. I bought 15 of them, and my plan is to halter train my ewe lambs. So I have 15, essentially 16 ewes and 16 rams this year, and I have a couple halters already. And the halter training takes about a week to get them trained if you do it every day. And the benefit of halter training your lambs is whenever you're going to need to handle them for any purpose for the rest of their lives, just catching them and putting the halter on triggers them to sort of settle down, and you can lead them to wherever you need them to go. So for things like, doing any kind of healthcare shots or trimming their feet or anything like that, having them halter trained is awesome. Shearing day, if you can put them on a halter in time to the post rather than having to hold them as they're waiting their turn, another good reason for halter training. Anytime, like, you make a sale and then you have to take them out of the barn and into the new home's trailer or car or whatever, having them halter trained just makes the whole thing so much easier. So again, this year I'm home full time, which is a change from my status last year, so I have time to do this. And stay tuned. I'm going to probably do it once my bottle lambs are weaned, which is next week. They'll be at 10 weeks old, so I won't be doing any more bottle feeding, which is time consuming and kind of tiring. So once I get that done, the week after I'll spend working on halter training my ewe lambs. So I just thought that would be an interesting insight for you for the, kind of understanding what we do through the cycle of the year. So in the summer, halter training is one of the things that we do. Sapphire. Taking a little break from cleaning the barn. I got 2 sections of it done. It's around 11 on a weekday morning. The sheep were all just out on pasture. Now they're in to cool off and get some water, and this one is coming in to get a little affection. This is Gilly's ewe lamb. She's a single, and she's a spotted fawn catnugget. Very, very affectionate. And this is my other. Sorry, I need to pay attention to somebody else. My bad. We haven't named them yet. We name them at the point of registration. I have a naming theme that I'm going to use, but I make that a fun contest when I start announcing their names to ask people to guess what the theme is. So that'll be closer to August time frame. I'm really excited about it though. It's going to be a really neat theme. Oh, no, you don't even know who I am because my hair isn't out. So when I clean the barn, I try to cover up good. They like to play with my hair. Not that. This is Georgiana. Her beautiful, beautiful shiny black face. Hello, Mama. She gave us two beautiful ram lambs. When you see the spotted, the black and white spotted fancy rams, they're this ones. Am I paying attention to somebody else and you don't like it? Right here behind me is Hildur. So she was last year. We used the Nordic gods. And she wants to be friendly, but she still hesitates. She's actually going to a new home on Saturday. So she's a Morit ewe, really pretty. Isn't she? Almost as pretty as she is. But not quite. Did you get enough to eat out there? So this guy here is a ram. I don't give the rams any attention or affection because as they grow up, that prevents them from having fear of me. And if they're not afraid, they can become aggressive. So ram lambs don't ever get attention, although they're the boldest. They're the ones that are most likely to come up and ask for attention. But the ewes are the only ones that are going to get it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Got a couple other lambs that are kind of curious, wanting to be more friendly. Where they are. These two are my good girls. A lot of times I'm not sure if one is a ewe or a ram. I don't have the scurs, so I just... Here's one of Georgiana's. Oh, you can't see him. I think Georgiana's rams have inherited her friendliness, so they always are coming up. But I just ignore them. How hard as that is, they don't get it. I mean, no attention. Let's see who else is in this shot. So there, yeah, here's Georgiana's two boys. Very flashy. Anybody want to say hello? I'm not sure who this. Oh, this is Blue Sapphire's ram. There, he's actually going to a new home on Saturday. Same as Hildur. Heading out. Nice to take a break, huh? Black head right here with the white ear tag. That's Sigrun. She's a ewe from that 2019 crop. She's really nice. I've got yarn in my shop from her. I'm trying to get something to drink. She's really nice. Well, just let me sit here and do this all day, won't ya? You will. I have to wear gloves, otherwise my hands get absolutely cruddy. And actually a little bit hot from the friction. You don't mind. You don't mind. I believe this is Cora. I'm not really sure who it is. It's pretty fun. Cat Nugget coming to say hello. So the A friend of mine encouraged me to start color coding the years, so now it actually is a great idea. So the yellow ear tags are from the year we used the NPR correspondence, and that was 2018. This year we got orange tags that we're going to use. What do you think? I should probably get back to work, right, girls? Think I should get back to work? It's going to get really hot, so I think I'm going to finish cleaning the barn, and then she's eating my bun, and then I'm going to go work in the vegetable garden for a bit. So, hope you enjoy this time with my beautiful flock. I wish more of them would have come over to say hello, but maybe next time.